Hey guys, it's Courtney here. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started.
Welcome to the Black Standard Podcast. The Black Standard Podcast is an Afrocentric, Pan-African show that aims to normalize Black finance and wealth. And we share useful information on African history, current and global affairs, entrepreneurship, business, and Black culture and achievements. If you're looking to discover your roots while learning about the greatness hidden in the African race, or if you're from another race and you're interested in learning about our culture, then this podcast is perfect for you. Here at the Black Standard Podcast, we are all about raising the bar and setting the standard. Here is your host, Courtney Ann Wallace.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. This is episode 3, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about our Pan-African leaders, who they are, and why they're important. Before we begin, as usual, I want to repeat this daily mantra with you. And again, I'll be doing this in every episode. So, are you ready? Let's go. I am happy to be alive. My heart is clean. My mind is open. I am ready to receive. All right, let's repeat it one more time. I am happy to be alive. My heart is clean. My mind is open. I am ready to receive. Now, our quote of the day is, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. I just thought that quote was so impactful. I had to have it in this episode. I'm going to read it one more time. If you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. And that's actually by Napoleon Hill. Before I get into the episode, Daunte Wright. I mean, just the other day, we were protesting over the life of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and a list of other people who have senselessly lost their lives to the police force in the United States of America. And let me just be clear, I don't care about whose criminal record is tainted. I don't care if they were genuinely pulled over because there's a warrant out for their arrest. What I have a problem is why does each situation have to end in the death of the person in question? I was on Instagram this morning and I was watching a video. I believe he was 60 or 66. White male had a confrontation. He assaulted an employee, I believe it was a grocery store. He assaulted a police officer, and he literally fled the scene with a police officer hanging from the vehicle for dear life. And no shots were fired, no physical harm was done to this man. And I just can't help but feel like the way in which situations are dealt with people of color and other races are without a doubt different. And so I just want to express my condolences to the family of Daunte Wright, his son, his girlfriend, his mother, his father. And you know what's ironic, listeners? What's ironic is George Floyd's girlfriend was actually one of Daunte's teachers growing up. I just want you to think about that for a minute to see or to realize how connected this all is and how frequently it's happening too, you know. But this is why we're Pan-African. This is why we're Pan-African, because if we don't stick together, nobody else will do it for us. But let's get into the episode. So again, I'm going to just briefly define what Pan-Africanism is. In case you're coming a little late to the party and you didn't check out episodes 1 and 2, which you should do. But Pan-Africanism, if you're on social media and you keep seeing new pages promoting Black Lives Matter, equal justice for people of color, fair treatment, rights to education, and you want to know what all of that is about, well, that is basically Pan-Africanism in a sense. It's a movement that says people of African descent have a common interest and should be unified in order to achieve economical, social, and political progress. So who started the movement? Who are the fathers and mothers of Pan-Africanism? Like, where did all of this begin? I kind of went in depth about that in the last episode, but basically, I spoke about the growth of Pan-Africanism over the years and what point the movement was officially recognized or established. But in summary, the movement went from leaders promoting politics into more of a social context that promotes working together and looking out for one another, and not necessarily all of us packing our stuff on a plane to Africa. So in this episode, I'm going to be highlighting my favorite Pan-African leaders and their contribution to the movement. I chose these persons because personally, I think they were pure with their intentions and their life was dedicated to either uplifting people of color or, working to challenge legislation on behalf of people of color. Now, remember, guys, the comment section is always open. So throughout this episode, this is a podcast. This is a community. Feel free to let your thoughts be known in the comment sections. Feel free to leave a review as well, especially on Apple Podcasts. But basically, my topics are Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. So if you're listening to this and you have names you want to add to this list, as I said, comment in the review section. Or if you're listening on our YouTube channel, hit me up in the comment section on who your top picks are or anyone you want to add to that list. So I'm going to be talking about why I chose each of these persons. But first, a quick ad from Naki and Beauty. Check it out. When I go to bed, I like to feel comfortable. I like to put my hair up and use a bonnet that's not tight around my head, and something that doesn't leave me looking like a grandma. That's why I chose Naki and Beauty for all my hair care needs. They have stylish bonnets that are reversible, comfortable, and beautiful. It doesn't matter if you have braids, long locks, permed hair, or kinky hair. Their bonnets are spacious, stretchable, and did I mention how beautiful and comfortable they were? They have bonnets of all types, prints, and colors. You can find them at shop_Naki and Beauty on Instagram or on Facebook at shop Naki and Beauty. Now, back to the podcast. So, Marcus Garvey. First of all, I don't believe in coincidences, and me and this hero, we actually share a birthday and also somewhat of a similar birth year. So my birthday is August 17, 1997. His birthday is August 17, 1887. I just feel like somewhere the ancestors are saying, child, you ain't such thing as a coincidence. You better get that purpose. You better go feel your purpose, child. But, I listened to Marcus Garvey because he is the founder of the United Negro Improvement Association, also known as UNIA. Please try and remember that organization, guys. They did a lot for people of color, but the goal was to unite all of the African diaspora to establish a country and absolute government of our own. He also published the paper called Negro World that helped spread his message. And in 1919, he and the UNIA launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company which facilitated trade between Africa and Africans in the Caribbean, Americas, and Canada and other areas, also known as the African diaspora. Now, if you don't understand that term, I did speak about it in the previous episode. It means that wherever we migrated or we were forced to migrate to, it would be a part of the African diaspora, especially if we're still living there today. Anyway, so the next person and, why I chose them was W.E. Du Bois. This man, oh my God, he was a scholar, I tell you. He helped in the founding of the NAACP, the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, and he also edited their magazine for 20 years. He had a collection of literature called The Souls of Black Folk, and he served as the basis for African American literature. He spent a good portion of his life studying and writing about the condition of blacks, and he also conducted the first case study of the black community known to American history, like right across the board. He was the first man to do it. And although I won't be able to completely list everything he did, just know that he, along with Marcus Garvey and the other people I named, they spent their entire life educating and spreading knowledge about the condition and state of the American community, along with remedies and suggestions. Now, next on my list is Brother Malcolm, also known as Malcolm X. Brother Malcolm was a black nationalist and civil rights activist. His father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister who worked for Marcus Garvey's UNIA. You see how small the world is? Anyway, Pan-African move in the 1920s, the UNIA. As a child, Malcolm would go to these meetings with his dad, and at the moment, his dad was the president of the Omaha chapter at one point, and he kind of absorbed Garvey's argument that the American community had the tools and the resources to blossom without depending on the white man, and he and his family really went through a lot. From watching his house burn down as a child, that was lit up by white neighbors trying to prove a point, to having his father murdered, to ending up in prison. Malcolm X really is the epitome of beating the odds. And after prison, he started recruiting for the Nation of Islam. But after constant conflict and, finding out that their leader was participating in immoral acts, he then shifted into his own narrative. He attended several conferences, gave several quality speeches. I actually have 2 books for him here. I have one second, guys. I have the autobiography of Malcolm X as told by Alex Haley, and I also have Malcolm X Speaks, which is a collection of speeches and statements. This is written by George Braitman. So he gave quality speeches, you know what I'm saying? And although leaving the Nation of Islam, he didn't part from the religion. He held to the traditional version of Islam, and during that time he toured Africa and saw standards of living and legislation that he could only dream of in America, because it was so bad back then. It's still bad now, obviously, but back then it was like, man, I wish we could have this type of living back in America, you know what I mean? So during this tour of Africa, Pan-Africanism was still growing, and the teaching of Marcus Garvey had re-risen, so to speak. Malcolm X began his own Pan-African group with the Organization of Afro-American Unity. So that's OAAU. This organization, they advocated for human rights for all those of African descent. And as head of the OAAU, Malcolm X met with world leaders to forward this mission, generating a far more diverse message following the NOI. You know what I mean? The Nation of Islam. So whereas once he had shunned all of the white society, now he was kind of encouraging white individuals to learn about oppression, to be taught. Because in reality, listeners, yes, we have bad apples, but you also have to try to educate other races because they were born into a particular culture. And obviously, certain things are right from wrong, but the technicalities of it, you know, it's always good to try and educate first before completely writing a person off. Now, the last person I wanted to explain why I chose them was Martin Luther King, also known as one of the greatest civil rights activists in all of American history. Martin Luther King Jr.'s actions led to the equal and fair treatment of all African Americans. He lobbied the annulment of segregation laws, and after women like Rosa Parks, shout out to Miss Rosa, she refused to give up her seat for a white person in the bus. But with that, and with what Martin Luther King was doing, mass meetings started being held under the Montgomery Improvement Association, where King was president at the time. He did at least 2,500 speeches. I cannot imagine doing 2,500 speeches. I'm doing a podcast right now and I'm looking at the clock and it's at least 15 minutes. And I want a little water right now, you know, to be honest. 2,500 speeches, that's massive, man. Before his passing, though, his words were slightly different from Brother Malcolm, where retaliation was concerned. Malcolm X was a more, how do I word this? Martin Luther King was more like, be passive, turn the other cheek. Malcolm X was more like, I'm not going to bother anybody, but if you touch me, I'm going to kick your butt. Basically, so they had a difference in opinion there. But despite all of that, you know what's funny? They were able to put their differences aside and work together, which is what I respect, you know. But he really did dedicate his life right up to his assassination, and he lobbied for equal rights for people of color the entire journey. Now, of course, there's a plethora of people who worked their entire life elevating people of color, but these persons are just my personal favorite. So like I said earlier, comment below in the review section. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comment section who stood out for you as a Pan-African leader. And while I respect and love all of those persons, there are still quite a few current persons who I do consider to be advocates for equal rights and for people of color. And I think these persons constantly make an effort to help others, whether it was by a monetary donation, legal help, or simply educating the wider public with their social media platform. A few of these people for me are Sean King. You guys should check him out on Instagram. Very cool guy. He's always advocating for justice, legal justice in particular, for people of color. Colin Kaepernick, he was an athlete that he decided to kneel during the national anthem. And I was about to say it cost him his career, but it didn't cost him a thing. You know why? Because where he lost, he gained. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of doors opened up for Colin. He's currently one of the main figures right now where that kneeling and fist image is concerned. And I respect him for that. Beyonce, she doesn't just sing. Beyonce might not be very public with her works, but from time to time we see where she will donate to a particular movement. She, as well as her husband, Jay-Z, they will help with legal action for certain people. And even in her music, in her work, she constantly involves Africa, Mama Africa, in our video them, in our music. Yeah. She I don't know, man. I'm lost for words. I'm sitting here and I just got goosebumps. She is so creative. If you're not paying attention, you miss the message. The outfits, the dances, the paintings on the face. It's informative. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing, you know. But those are my leaders. That's why I chose them. We're going to be wrapping up the podcast now. So now it's that time where I give shout outs. So shout out to my girl Candice, if you're listening to this. Candice actually won our phone credit giveaway in our trailer episode. She was our first listener, and I just want to say thank you, Candice. I love you. I miss you. Call me. But she's that supportive friend, and she actually won some credit for her phone. Shout out to K Marie. She actually left a review saying, "Definitely love the intro. Keep going and don't stop. Hashtag Black Girl Magic." I know that's right. I know that's right. You got it, girl. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're loving this episode. If you hear it, let me know if you're here again. If you want to be given a shout out, please ensure that you subscribe to the podcast and also leave a review. We're trying to get to 200 followers on Instagram. So if you're listening to this, go ahead and follow our Instagram page. I will leave a link in the show notes below. But on that note, guys, this is where I hop out. I will see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Black Standard Podcast. Follow us on social media and join the community. You can find us on Instagram at the Black Standard _JA, Facebook at the Black Standard JA, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you will find the recorded version of our podcast along with additional content. Until our next episode, see you soon.